Nicol Bolas the Ravager versus Ilharg the Raze-Boar. Unfortunately, we might have to... Oh no, we have Faithless Looting, and we're on the draw, so we'll keep that. If we don't get into another land with Faithless Looting, then we can put a stop on the upkeep and grab one with Vampiric Tutor. But we're still in a pretty tough spot if we have to do that, actually. We'll see what we grab off the Faithless Looting. Oh wow, we don't get into any lands. That's not good. We have to discard 2 cards here. We'll have to go for Bedevil. And I don't think Daze is going to be particularly good either. We'll put a stop on our upkeep, and we'll have to go for a land with that. Oh, and a Grim Monolith is the last thing we want to see. Let's go for a land here. Just a command tower will do. And then we can go Vandal Blast onto the Grim Monolith, and that means that we're not seeing an Ilharg next turn at least. Ilharg the Raze-Boar we play on the channel as well. It's a new commander from War of the Spark, a 6/6 trample for 5 mana. Whenever it attacks, you can put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, and then return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And still no lands. What is going on here? Well, we've got Tainted Pact at least, so let's hold up our Counter Magic and Tainted Pact. I built this deck quite a while ago. Nicol Bolas the Ravager is a 4 mana Grixis 4/4 flyer. When it enters, our opponents discard, and then for 7 mana it flips into Nicol Bolas the Arisen. And yeah, built this deck quite a while ago, but haven't played it on the channel yet. Our opponent does nothing, so we'll go for the Tainted Pact. Do we want to put Chain Lightning into our hand? No, we don't want Chain Lightning. Force Spike? No. Minamo? No. Counterflux? No. Where are all the lands? Opt? No. We don't want Fatal Push. Search for Azcanta is actually quite tempting, but... I think Search for Azcanta is the best thing here because it is card filtering for us. It means that we can't hold up Counter Magic. Now, do we have a blue land in the top 3 cards of our library? I'm not even going to risk it because I think we only revealed 1 land out of all that in Tainted Pact. So we'll ponder next turn. Our opponent's screwed on mana as well, so this is a very strange game. They get into their 3rd land and get down a Magus of the Moon. Well, apparently we should have held up Counter Magic. We'll put that into play and we will abrade. Do we want to abrade Magus of the Moon now? Yeah, because we want to ponder, don't we? And then we'll go for a ponder, and Sinkhole might be good. On second thoughts, I actually don't want any of these, so we'll just put them back in any order and say yes to a shuffle. And that's better. We are starting to get into our mana now. Must remember that the Faithless Looting is in the graveyard as well. We can recast that for its flashback cost of 3. And like I was saying, this is just a Grixis control build. We want to counter and disrupt our opponent as much as possible, although we're both just disrupting ourselves in this game, apparently. Tormenting Voice will draw our opponent a couple of cards, and they are up to 6 cards in hand. They get their 4th land. Okay, Sleight of Hand. Yeah, I think we can go for a Sleight of Hand, so we will not put that into the graveyard. And no, we will not transform Search for Azcanta. A lot of the time, I actually don't transform Search for Azcanta because it's very useful with its card filtering abilities. And with that, I will take a Marsh Flats. And we're starting to guarantee these land drops now. If our opponent gets into a land next turn, then we can mana leak it. Might go for Exclude though, while we have 3 mana held up, not doing anything. Okay, a Coercive Portal. I don't particularly like the extra card draw that will give our opponent. So we'll go for a mana leak on that. Coercive Portal is extra card draw every single turn in 1 versus 1. And we're up against a friend of the channel, Toltar. So hello to Toltar, and be sure to tell us all who you are in the comments section if you would like to. And if you want to share your build of Ilharg with everybody, then feel free to. Get down a smouldering marsh and see if we can get into something else decent. Memory lapse is definitely not going in the graveyard. And no again to flipping the search for Azcanta. I think what we do here is just go for Faithless Looting. Okay, an Underground Sea, a Fact or Fiction. Do we want Exclude? Yeah, I think we need to keep hold of Exclude because Memory Lapse will put it on top of the library. I'm going to risk getting rid of Underground Sea and hope that we draw into another land. And there is Ilharg. So we have to go for a Shocked Watery Grave here. And we'll get a time lapse on our opponent. And it goes straight, yeah, so it looks like they F6 there. You have to be careful sometimes with your F6s because, oh, we do get into another land. I think with Memory Lapse they could have put that, yeah, on top of its owner's library instead of the graveyard, so they could have cheated the command attacks a little bit there. Now, hopefully we don't have to worry about excluding Ilharg, so let's get down Nicol Bolas and start laying some damage on our opponent. And we'll have our opponent discard a card. They are down to 4 cards in hand. And then I think it's just Fact or Fiction for us next turn. Obviously that depends on what we draw into. Might be getting to the point where we want to flip over the Search for Azcanta now as well. That is 3 and tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Reveal a non-creature, non-land and put it into your hand. The rest go on the bottom. Oh, and there's an Inferno Titan. Luckily the Lightning Bolt will not get rid of our Nicol Bolas. Snapcaster Mage could be useful to us, so we will not put it into the graveyard. And I'm actually going to say yes to flipping the Search for Azcanta. That will give us 7 mana, and that means that we can -3, 10 damage to a creature or planeswalker. I actually quite like the idea of that, so let's flip over our commander. I need to carefully say that we want to deal 10 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Definitely get rid of Inferno Titan because it's going to do a lot of damage to us if we're not careful. Now we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed and hope that they don't get into a hasty creature. A 7th land here will allow Ilharg to come back. Just a Felwar Stone, so that means Ilharg can come next turn. And our opponent Chaos Warps into a Toxic Deluge. So that means that we lose our Planeswalker commander. Now, in order to attempt to make a land drop, I actually think I'm going to... I was going to say Fact or Fiction now. But we can wait this out, I think. The longer a control game goes, the better it is for the control player. And down comes that Ilharg. We'll make use of this Exclude finally. And then we can decide to either Fact or Fiction or go for Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. I think I'd quite like to Fact or Fiction because it's more cards potentially. Okay, that's actually not the best pile. We'll probably go for the Miscalculation no matter what our opponent does here. And yeah, I think they see that and they are splitting it up quite well there. Okay, Is It Charm is surprising. What are they worried about with Is It Charm? Okay, I think we're going to go for Miscalc here. A Tech Edge is not of much use to us. Our commander is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we can hold up the Miscalculation if we shock in the steam vents, so let's go for that. Our opponent again has to discard a card thanks to Nicol Bolas entering the field. Like I said before, I built this deck quite a while ago and just never got round to recording with it really, and it seemed quite flavourful to release a Nicol Bolas deck now that War of the Spark has been released. So that's exactly what I have opted for, of course. Now a Mana Crypt means that Ilharg can definitely come down. Oh, and a Duplicant. Yeah, Duplicant can definitely come down thanks to our opponent being able to pay for Miscalc. So we'll just have to allow it. And that means that Nicol Bolas will get exiled. Okay, Dismiss is yet more counter magic, which I'm sure our opponent will be really happy to see. Let's get down the tap land with Bojuka Bog and get the tap land out of the way. That will exile our opponent's graveyard. Not sure if they've made use of their graveyard or not. And then we'll just hold up Azcanta and our other instance. We've got a Snapcaster Mage, don't forget, and we can make use of quite a few things in our graveyard here. And Ilharg the Raze-Boar, they know about our miscalculation, but they kind of have to play through it. So we will counter that, and then Duplicant no doubt will swing in at us. Now, are we worried about our life total? I think I'd actually quite like to kill off the Duplicant with a Terminate here, because our life total's getting pretty low. And then at the end step we'll go for Azcanta, and we'll look at some cards on the top of our library. I would like a Jace the Mind Sculptor, and everything can go on the bottom in a random order. Graven Cairns for us, and how about a Nicol Bolas for 8 is that? Let's just go for it. Our opponent's being a good sport here, so we don't want to be countering every single thing they do. And they go down to 1 card in hand, discarding a Spawn of Thraxes. That's exactly the card that we have in our deck as well. Getting lightning bolted by that Mana Crypt finally. Oh, a Dragon Mage is nice, but we don't really want our opponent to hit us with that. So we're going to have to bounce it with the Mind Sculptor. Peak doesn't really do anything because our opponent has no cards in hand. Let's go for Mind Sculptor and bounce the Dragon Mage. And then we can go Tech Edge and flip the Nicol Bolas at the end of our opponent's turn. I don't think we have to do that at sorcery. We can only do it at sorcery speed, so forget that. We can bounce Ilharg, can't we? So how about we flip Nicol Bolas here? And then we can put a creature card from the battlefield into play under our control. We're going to steal our opponent's Spawn of Thraxes. That will enter and deal damage to anything of our choice equal to the number of mountains we control. We control 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's 4 mountains. So 4 damage to our opponent, and now we have a 5/5 flyer in the air. Ilharg comes back down. We can just bounce that with the Mind Sculptor. Let's draw a couple of cards with Nicol Bolas. Pyroblast is useless in this game. Let's bounce the Ilharg and swing in with our opponent's dragon. And then we will also Gitaxian Probe. That's just going to draw us a card. Okay, Dig Through Time is nice to hold up. Okay, we can't deal 10 damage to our opponent's face with Nicol Bolas. It's just a creature or planeswalker. Let's dismiss Ilharg, and big props, by the way. Be sure to thank our opponent for playing this out because it's been a pretty one-sided game. So big props to our opponent. I understand how miserable Control is to play against. So they've been a really good sport here. We'll counter the Dragon Mage. And hopefully we can get a win off next turn. Let's just go for the Azcanter. We'll take a Supreme Will from that, and everything can go back in any order. I'm just seeing if we can try and get lethal on our opponent, but I don't know if we can. Okay, we'll just swing in with the Dragon again. Draw a couple of cards with Nicol Bolas again. We'll Brainstorm with Jace. Put Thoughtseize and that back. And then we'll shuffle those away with this land. And then we'll throw it back over to our opponent, discarding the Pyroblast and the Peak and Brainstorm. Oh, our opponent has left the game already. Yeah, they were clearly having a miserable time with that, and who can blame them? But big props to Taltar for playing that out. It's thanks to players like that that we get to show off how our decks are supposed to function. And yeah, as usual, Control is a pretty miserable matchup to play against quite often. But we got to see some of what Ilharg wants to be getting out. There's Inferno Titan, and Thundermare is really good. That's in our deck as well. Magus of the Moon, luckily we had an Abrade in hand, so that made short work of that. Pretty good build by our opponent, but it's just unlucky that we managed to get our control game. It could have just as easily gone in our opponent's direction, so again, big thank you for playing that out. Hope you all enjoyed it. That's Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.